everyone, and welcome to A New Direction. My name is Jay Izzo, and oh man, do we have another great show for you today. Listen, here's the deal, okay? We all live with a certain amount of doubt on a daily basis. Let's be honest, we all do. And when doubt creeps in, it can be extraordinarily paralyzing. So let me ask you all out there, whether you're watching on DBTV, listening on terrestrial radio, coast to coast, or 24/7 radio, or you're watching us stream, or you're listening to us via podcast somewhere else. Let me ask you a question here. Where does your doubt come from? What is it in your past what is the secrets from your past that are inhibiting you from doing the things that you could do so that you could be everything that you were created to be? That you could unleash the potential of who you are and unleash it on the world and be such a disruptor that you, the person listening, watching, you could change the world. What's keeping you from that? What doubts covered in fear or secrets do that for you? You know, I got to tell you something. This book we're going to do today by Kat O'Sullivan, who's with me. I love that name, Kat O'Sullivan. But it's got a story, by the way. Let me tell you something. It's called From Doubt to Do. And, you know, I coach a lot of people. And Kat and I have coached a lot of people in our lives together. And we run across the same issues. You know what it is? What inhibits us most is our doubt. Our doubt, right? And we want to help you overcome that today. That's what her and I really want to do. We want to give you not just hope, we want to give you things that you can actually take with you today, a toolkit, if you will, in a book right here that you can use and that you can live the life that you were meant to live. And we're going to interview her in just a second, but let's do what we do every week, right? We are 4-part people. We're physical, mental, emotional, spiritual people. And we do this every week where we check in every week on a scale of 1 to 10. Where are you at with all those areas? So like 1 is, just don't get any worse. 10 is, oh my gosh, it can't get any better. 5 is average. And so what we do is like say, let's take the physical. How would you say on a scale of 1 to 10 you're doing when it comes to eating right, getting enough sleep, drinking enough water, getting enough exercise? How would you rate yourself, right? Now, listen, if your number is a 2, don't be alarmed. That's a starting point. That's the place where we go, okay, I'm a 2. Let's get to a 2.5 because we're not going to get to a 10 today, but maybe we could get to a 2.25, 2.5. Let's move the meter just a little bit. What would you have to do? And if you're a 7, congratulations. It gets a little harder from there. Okay, I get it. So that's your first number. Okay. The second number is our mental intellectual number, right? And what I'm asking here is, what are you doing to be an active participant in your mental growth in terms of your knowledge and wisdom and understanding of yourself and the world around you, your job or your career, or building a new career? What are you doing to be that active participant? Because I got to be honest with you, you could sit on this book all day long. You will never absorb it. Right? You have to be an active participant in it. Right? And on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you say you're doing there? That's your second number. The third number is your emotional number. And we break it up into 2 simple little ways in the show because Daniel Goleman has written tons on emotional intelligence. But here's what we're looking at. 1, how would you say you're doing on a scale of 1 to 10 of, being able to control your emotion under stress and pressure? Like when that person cuts you off in traffic? Or the person in line is just taking a little too long at the grocery store and you're in a hurry. How would you say you're doing there with your emotional control? That's the first scale. The second part of it is, how well are you able to tap into and understand the emotions of another person? That requires emotional vocabulary. Is your emotional vocabulary big enough? And do you have what it takes to really stand there and listen to the emotions of another person and identify it? Because We all need that. See, we need to really begin to understand the emotional part of who each other is. Not just tell our emotions, but be able to receive somebody else's emotions so that we can help them move along too. So on a scale of 1 to 10, you put those two together, how would you say you're doing? And then finally, there's a spiritual end, right? And I know that some of you out there feel like you're not very spiritual, and that's okay, right? But if you remove the mental, the physical, and the emotional, what you do left is spiritual, because we do connect on a spiritual level. We all do. And not only that, we all live by faith every day. The fact of the matter is, you drank your cup of coffee and believed it wasn't poisonous this morning. You pushed the button on your car believing it was going to start. You saw the crosswalk sign that said walk, and you believed that the cars weren't going to hit you. You made plans for your future. They haven't happened yet, but you believe they will. That's all faith. We all live by it every day. That's a spiritual concept. It's not a human concept. And then what brings you back to centeredness in the midst of chaos? Is it God? Is it nature? Is it meditation? Is it something else? And then how's that working for you? And then what do you need to do to change it? Those 4 areas are like the air in the tires of your car. If one tire is too low, what happens? Well, it's very hard to steer the car, isn't it? And if all 4 tires are too low, what happens? Well, over the course of time, if you keep trying to drive that car with low tires, you're going to ruin the car. So our goal is to bring the tires up to the right height so that our car rolls smoothly. And speaking of someone who does that, her name is Kat O'Sullivan. She's a best-selling author, keynote speaker, podcast host, lifelong change maker. She leverages 25 years of experience and expertise helping individuals and organizations achieve the seemingly impossible. Kat challenges assumptions, fresh perspective, and creates a sense of curiosity about what else is possible. While disruption can be painful, it is also transformational. And for Kat, it's an opportunity for reinvention, something she knows a great deal about. She has a long history of reinvention and doing so under fire with immediate and long-lasting results. She joins us today with her latest book, From Doubt to Do, Navigating Your Pathway to Possibility, where she shares her personal story, but also gives you a toolkit so that you can help you on your journey become all that you were meant to be. So ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. Welcome to the first time to A New Direction, Kat O'Sullivan. Kat, welcome to A New Direction.
Thanks so much, Jay. And I just have to say, I really appreciate what you just challenged your audience with, because this is a transformational journey. I don't care where we are.
Yeah,
There's always more.
There is always more.
Just when we think it's safe to go out, right?
Yeah, it's not. It's not. But you know, it's fun. I think the one thing I pulled away from this book was that even though there were challenges along the way, and we'll get into being a Los Alamos, New Mexico baby. We'll talk about that. But there are challenges, but those challenges, if we look at them the right way, make life interesting and better, you know. And what am I made of in the midst of those challenges? And so I think with age, Kat, honestly, as I've aged, I think I now see the truth into consider it pure joy when you face trials of many kinds, you know, because I think I get it. Not perfect at it, but I think I get it. Here's what I would do. I want to just jump into chapter 1, because chapter 1 is entitled Secrecy, the Secrecy Factor, How Are Secrets Impacting What is Possible? And you start off talking a little bit about your story. And I think this is important for people to know your background a little bit, that you were born in a secret city in Los Alamos, New Mexico. And there are going to be some people who were younger who are going to go, why should that be important? Why is Los Alamos so important? I'm sure a lot of people are born in Los Alamos. But maybe we should tell them the secret. So, Kat, I'm going to let you tell a little bit of your story. Let everybody know, why is Los Alamos, New Mexico so important to your story?
Well, you know what? I did not think too much about it, you know, because we moved to California when I was like 6.
Mm-hmm.
However, when I was 17, I was crossing the border from Canada to the US, and I was asked a seemingly innocent question. Where were you born?
Mm.
And when I said Los Alamos, New Mexico, the guy behind me declared very loudly, a bomb baby. Now, we can laugh now, and this was way before 9/11, so most people were chuckling instead of, in fear. But for me, it took me down. I mean, it was like a gut punch. Everything in my body was just like going crazy. And I just felt like I wanted to climb into a hole to hide. Like, what were people thinking when they heard bomb baby?
Right.
And it's something I inherited. And it wasn't until that moment that I realized I had inherited something that I didn't want.
Right.
That was not what I wanted to be known for.
Sure.
And I think, a lot of us have inherited some secrets. Mine was, what it is,
Right.
but I think we all, and I have other secrets I inherited from my family. But it doesn't have to be the blueprint for the rest of our life. And in that moment, I knew, I wanted more. I wanted to be known for more than that.
Right.
And it took me on a journey, quite a journey to discover, like, who am I really? And what is the legacy that I want to create, that I want others to inherit because of how I've lived my life.
One of the things I think that maybe some people, again, who are younger may not remember about Los Alamos when you were born there is your mom and dad were working on the H-bomb, the hydrogen bomb.
Yeah, they were recruited to make the transition to, nuclear weapons. They were post-Manhattan Project. And for a while I thought, oh, that's great. They weren't involved in that. Only to realize that, my dad's out in the field testing the bomb and my mom's working in the lab doing God knows what, because they never talked about it.
Right.
Not only while we were in Los Alamos, but, subsequently, it was not something that they acknowledged or talked about.
Well, they couldn't, right?
Well, until, like, when I was 10, I finally got a birth certificate that showed where I was born, because it was declassified at that time. Right. Up to that point, Jay, I was born in a P.O. box.
Isn't that crazy?
So, they could have talked about it, at least the idea of it, but it's so ingrained. Secrecy is so ingrained, and it's deadly in so many ways. And so I think it's important for all of us to take a look at what are those things that we never talk about, or that we're told we can never talk about, or that we're ashamed about, and be able to release that. And create a new blueprint, a new pathway to becoming what we want to be known for.
You talk about not all secrets are created equal, and you talk about healthy secrets versus unhealthy secrets. Can you help people understand the difference between healthy and unhealthy secrets?
Yeah, like, a healthy secret is grandma's favorite recipe. Okay, that's might be secret, but it doesn't have any life-sucking energy around it, right? But an unhealthy secret is something that we can't talk about because we're ashamed about it in some way, and it tends to keep us stuck.
Right.
That it can, a lot of gremlins can creep in, with all kinds of messages about what we're worthy of, shame is a powerful and yet disempowering emotion. And most secrets have shame associated with them.
Mm-hmm.
So the only way that we can break free of that is, guess what? First, we got to acknowledge it, but then it's like, we got to talk about it,
Right.
which just seems counterproductive. Now, when I say talk about it, it's talk about it with someone you trust.
Right.
And in doing that, it begins to lessen the hold that it has on us.
Yeah, because the power in shame, of course, is it's based in fear,
Mhm.
and the only way to get past that fear is to I have no other way of saying this but to confess it to someone that you can trust, so that you can get it out. Because the more you harbor it, the more it affects other parts of your life.
Well, it gets bigger and bigger, and it just overtakes everything.
Yeah.
And yet, ironically, when we talk about it, it begins to just, fade away.
Yeah.
It may always still be an element of it, but the hold that it has on us is much less.
Right. You talk about here that at the end of this chapter, in chapter 1, you talk about that we're living a legacy. You say we're all living our legacy every moment of every day by design or default. By design, I mean living your life on purpose, aligning with who you are, what you really want your life to look like, and the impact you aspire to have. So one way or another, we're living our life of legacy on purpose or not. Walk us through what we need to do to choose to live the legacy we want to live.
Well, I do believe that how we think about inheritance and legacy is dead wrong. Because most of us think about it as something that's left behind. Like when we die, we're leaving, whether it's our finances, our property, or this or that, like, what are we going to leave behind? The reality is we are all living our legacy every moment of every day, choice by choice. So it's not something that is left behind for the future. It's now. And, that could be a frightening thought, because, we are, quote, oh, so busy being busy that it's just too easy to lose sight of what's important to us. And, one day we wake up, we're going 100 miles an hour in the wrong direction. So the first thing is we've got to stop. We got to pause long enough to say, is how I'm living my life today in this moment what I want to be known for? That's big.
It is big.
I often think, like if somebody, in full transparency, if somebody looked at my calendar, my color-coded calendar of all the things that I need to do this week, what would that say about what's important to me? Now, I have to say, I've gotten better, but I still challenge myself, to kind of take a pause, look at that and say, does this reflect what's really most important to me and what I want to be known for? What on that calendar needs to be taken off? Is there something that's missing because I'm oh so busy doing things that really aren't that important to me, that's reactionary? So, if we want to live our legacy, we've got to heighten our awareness, first off, to get crystal clear around what's most important to us. And then look at that as a filter for what we put on our calendar, how we spend our time. And if something's out of alignment with that, be willing to put it aside.
That's so good, because we are all living legacies right now. And I don't think we think of it that way. You're right. We think of it wrongly. We think of it something that we're going to leave later on down the road. And yet we're all living legacies, and we have to be extraordinarily careful. You're right. Every moment of every day, what is my life living like? Not looking like. What is my life living like?
Yeah.
And is it in alignment with really who I am? Is it really in alignment with who I aspire to be? And am I being consistent with that every single day? Because whatever I'm doing right now is my legacy. Man, that's powerful. Really, really powerful.
Well, and I think the more mature we get, the more the question can be haunting,
Yeah.
because if we don't take the time to really reassess and readjust, we could be having a lot of regrets the older we get.
So true. Her name is Kat O'Sullivan. The book, by the way, From Doubt to Do, Navigating Your Pathway to Possibility. So good. There's a workbook in the back, by the way, that you can work through all these things that we're going to talk about today. You're listening to Here on A New Direction. Folks, Linda Craft Team Realtors, first time sponsor here. They help people transition in life. And you say to me, well, how would the real estate, what do you mean life transition? Think about it. Every place you've ever lived has been a transition in life. I mean, you can even ask Kat Sullivan. Every place she's ever lived has been a life transition for sure. So listen, what they do is they take the stress out of it. They've been doing that for nearly 40 years. Matter of fact, they're going to have their 40th year in 2025. And they would love to help you in your next life transition, whether selling or buying a home. The best way to start doing that is go to lindacraft.com. That's LINDACRAFT.com. And we're back here on A New Direction with Kat O'Sullivan, the book From Doubt to Do, Navigating Your Pathway to Possibility. Fabulous book. I have completely defiled it. It is so covered in yellow. I think there's more yellow than there is actually white space on the book. So good. It's a delicious book. I know you're going to love it. We just got started. We finished chapter 1. If you're just joining us, we're going to jump into chapter 2 because I think this is so good. This is so Kat. This is where you're going to get the some of the insight of Kat here, because it's so good. Chapter 2 is entitled Disruption. What if disruption is a good thing? And she makes a confession to all of us here, and she says, I have a confession, no, a declaration. I am a disruptor, is what she says. Help us understand the difference between disruption and disruptor.
Well, I mean, come on, disruptor is somebody that makes your life miserable because they are disrupting, not in a positive way, okay? Whereas disruption, I mean, I think I said, I believe disruption can be our best friend. Mm-hmm. And that's pretty shocking to many people, like, say what? But when we really think about all the significant improvements in life, in technology, and in every area of life, it's all because there was a disruption that caused someone to think differently that created something even better. Mm. And, I learned early on that I'm unemployable. And by that, I mean, my thing is to come in and see how can we make it better? Mm. And sometimes that's welcomed, and a lot of times it's not.
Yeah.
So I learned early on, like, if I wanted to really be a change maker, if I really wanted to make a difference in this world, I needed to find ways in which I could exercise disruption and that it would actually create a better life for someone or people or organizations or whatever. And that was not in, as an employee. Right. So early on, I realized that, I was going to need to make my own way.
Right.
Create my own way.
Right. Right. You in this chapter, I'm going to move a little further down. You have a subsection here entitled Time to Learn a New Dance with Disruption. You ask several questions here, and I think these are great questions that the audience should hear from you. And so I'm going to just spurt them out, and then I'm going to let you expand on it. Where's the dance of life taking you, audience? What if today is the day you've been waiting for, audience? Is there something you secretly wish you could be or do, but it feels impossible? Maybe it's that thing you don't dare say out loud for fear of what may follow. What immediately comes to mind? And you go on to say, don't overthink it, analyze it, judge it, write it down. Talk about this part of ourselves in embracing ourselves as a disruptor, or part of disruption. Help us wrap ourselves around that.
Well, I'm going to ask your audience, like, what's that thing that is just, on your heart that you would love to be or do, but it feels impossible.
Yeah.
And it feels like in order to do that, it would disrupt your life. And yet is such a powerful word. Yet, it is the very thing that would put you on a path that you could feel like, I am living my legacy. So, there's this constant dance that we experience in life, the ups and the downs, and like, oh my God, I really wish I could. I hear that so often. If only this were different, then I would do what my heart's desire is. And I just say, enough of that. We need to really listen to our heart, listen to our gut, because that's where our legacy is born. And then, I have two questions that help us kind of get into that state of possibility. And that is, number one, what if what I really want, what I really desire, is possible? And number two, what am I not seeing yet? And again, the word yet is so powerful because it leaves the door open. And I have just found throughout my life, when I hit the wall of resistance, my own, to something, a new possibility, that the minute I ask myself that question, what if it is possible? What if it is doable? What am I not seeing? It's like magic. And I'm sure you've all heard the thing, like you're going to buy a new car and you decide you want a Ford Mustang. And then everywhere you go, all you see are Ford Mustangs because that's what you're looking for. And the reality is we only see what we're looking for. Let me say that again. We only see what we're looking for. And until we give ourselves permission to declare what we really want, we're not going to see our way there. We're going to stay stuck. So we've got to first get real about what it is we really want and give ourselves permission. And that's a foreign concept for many of us. Like, we're always looking for permission. I mean, how many of us raise our hand, asking for permission to do something? And again, I'm like so over that, because I spent a lot of my early life asking for permission, wanting approval. And at a certain point, it was like, if I want to do what I really want, I'm going to have to own it and just do it. And, when I joke that I like Tina Fey's approach, just say yes and you'll figure it out later.
I do understand that approach.
And the reality is that until we take that first step, we're never going to see the next step and the next step and the step. So the reality is we've got to be willing to own it and then take a step. And I appreciate what you said earlier about going from a 2 to a 2.5, right? It's a journey.
Yeah.
And it isn't until we take that first step that we're going to see the next and the next and the next. And pretty soon our dream is a reality.
Yeah. You talk about, it all starts with an inspiring K-shift. Mm-hmm. Which by the way is your registered trademark, by the way, is K-shift. And you say that a K, and people go, well, what's a K-shift? And you say, see what you can't see yet, connect the dots you never expected, create new possibilities. And it's a mindset too, that we have. Talk about the K-shift, and how the K-shift is some place that we got to start to make this shift happen in our own mindset.
Yeah. And the K is for catalyst, as in catalyst with a K. That's the brand. Okay. But a catalytic shift is something that is disruptive. It requires disruption. We all have some aha moments. I don't know, I wake up at 2 a.m. and I have like a little thought, like, what if but I'm talking about a shift that is so significant that it's unfathomable. And yet it's what we really want. It's catalytic, and it's a thing that propels us to shift our mindset from impossible to possible. And it isn't until we're willing to make that K-shift that we can create any kind of significant shift in our life. And let's face it, there's a lot of opportunities for shift right now. As I say, shift happens.
Right.
And when it does, we have the opportunity to make magic happen. And that magic doesn't happen unless we're willing to make that K-shift.
Yeah. And you'd say the importance of this K-shift, one of the important things about the K-shift is that it reveals 4 C's, and that I would like to move us into courage, clarity, commitment, and capacity. And so I want to take apart these 4 things, if you're okay with that, and dig into each one of them if we're okay, because I think when we make the catalytic shift that you're talking about here with a K, because I don't want to lose the K, and it reveals these 4 C's. I think it's really, and you talk about this in the book, that it kind of starts with courage, it goes to clarity, it moves to commitment, it then goes to capacity, but then it starts back over again with courage.
It's a cycle.
It's a cycle. It keeps going, because every time you have courage to accomplish something, and this is where I got it, you get courage to accomplish something through this process. Well, to go the next step is going to require more courage to get to that level, right? To make that happen. So let's talk about these 4 C's. And chapter 3 starts us off with courage. What if it is possible? And you ask the question, is there a secret desire? Let me redo this for the audience. Audience, you're listening, watching, listen to this. Is there a secret desire stuck in your imagination for fear it won't work or others might think you're crazy? Question mark. And here's Kat's response, reality check. There is no courage without fear. Now I'm going to make you go and talk about courage and what is possible.
Hey, you know what? If what we're thinking about doesn't scare us, it probably isn't worth doing.
Wow, good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you think about the people that you admire for their courage, I don't know of any of those people that didn't have to work through their fear to get to that courageous moment of stepping out in faith to do the thing that they're passionate about.
Yeah, that's so critical, because there's no change. There's no real change if we don't face some fear. Right?
Yeah.
And you talk about that sometimes the impossible really isn't impossible. It's kind of the way we think about impossible. Talk about that.
Well, it's all the limiting beliefs and the assumptions, the stories that we tell ourselves. Because, man, we tell ourselves all kinds of stories every moment of every day, especially when we're faced with something challenging. Again, all those gremlins creep in telling us we're not good enough. Who do you think you are to take on something like that? What if you fail? I mean, there's just all these things that chime in. And that's the moment when we get to choose. Do we listen to those voices? Or do we change the story to, the opposite? I have a Post-it note on my computer, and it says, I am enough. I know enough. I can do this. Now, I'm a coach. I've been a coach for a long time, and I'd like to think I don't need that. But I'll tell you, every time I reach a certain point, I'm facing yet another opportunity that scares the hell out of me. And I have to have my little notes to remind myself,
yeah,
I can do this. I've done it before, umpteen times, and yet that fear still creeps in.
Yeah.
And I get to choose.
The stories we tell ourselves are so powerful. And I don't think that we recognize what we're actually saying to ourselves often. I don't think we have enough self-awareness, quite frankly, to go, what did I just say about myself? Every time you call yourself stupid, or I'm so dumb, or I can't do this, or I don't have the energy, or I don't have the power to do this, or I'm not smart enough to do this, or I'm not handsome enough or pretty enough, whatever it is. Those are the stories that you start telling yourself, and you have to take that seriously. I can't, and I know you agree with me that we cannot impress enough upon you, the listener, to pay careful attention to the words that you are saying about you, because those words are coming into fruition. Isn't that the way you feel about it? I mean, it's the way I feel about it.
Words are powerful, and we speak into existence all kinds of things, good, bad, anything in between. But I mean, we got to be really careful about what we say out loud or to ourselves, Like, is this something we would say to our best friend? Hell no.
Right.
But we'd say it to ourselves. I mean, we need to learn more self-compassion.
Yeah. Well, I've said this to clients and asked them that very question. Would you say this to your best friend? And they go, no. And I go, why aren't you your best friend?
Yeah. Good point.
Right? I mean, why aren't you your best friend? Of all the people that you should be best friend of, it should be yourself. Right? Because how can you love somebody else if you can't love who you are?
Right.
Right? I mean, if you can't take care of yourself, what makes you think you could take care of someone else? Right?
And yet.
And yet, yeah, right. And yet, right. You're so right about it. Let's move to the next. Okay, we courage, and now we're going to slide around to clarity. Envision what you really want. Help us understand clarity.
Well, Jay, let me ask you this. How often have you thought you were being crystal clear about what you wanted somebody to do, and then all of a sudden you realize they completely reinterpreted that? Okay. And when you re-explain it, you hear, well, I didn't know you meant that.
Moi? Me?
Well,
Ever do something like
the reality, and this is so true, I'm speaking, you're listening, but in between us, there's this filter where you're completely reinterpreting what I'm saying through the lens of what you want, right? And you could repeat back, the classic thing is just have someone repeat back what you just said. Well, somebody can repeat back just what you said, but their interpretation of that, you don't know until they actually walk it out.
Right.
So when I say clarity, I'm talking about no assumptions, getting crystal clear about what it is you really want and what that's going to look like in motion, not just a theoretical thing, but very explicitly, what is it that you want? What does it look like? And why is that so important to you?
You also talk about giving yourself permission, which by the way is a weird thing to say, that I have to give myself permission, because often what we do is we seek for permission from someone else to hear it's okay, you can go ahead and do that.
Right.
So talk about the part of this that goes, okay, it's okay to give yourself permission to want what you really want.
Well, first off, you got to get rid of all the shoulds and the have tos. Okay. Yours and others. Okay. Yeah. Right.
Well, because we should all over ourselves,
Absolutely.
And the next thing, yes.
The typical definition of permission focuses on getting permission from others.
Right.
But I like to reframe that in a different way, meaning permission is all about liberty granted. Think about that. Liberty granted. And when we give ourselves that liberty, or when we give ourselves that permission, it is liberating. When we let go of the shoulds and the have tos and the why fors and whatever, right? And we actually say, it's okay for me to want what's on my heart. It's been given to me for a reason. It could be my calling. And for me, it's been my calling. And, that can be liberating.
Yeah. There's people out there who will say to you and me, and they could be driving or listening right now, saying, what if you're not sure what you want? Then what?
Well, usually, I have a couple of things. Like when people say, I don't know what I want. One thing that I will try is tell me, what would it be? What if you did know what you wanted? What if you did know? It's like you almost have to give them permission because they're afraid. That's the bottom line. They're afraid to speak what they really want for all the reasons we just talked about, right?
Right.
So first off, it's like, well, what if you did know? And I'm amazed, like in coaching, when I use that little trick, they all of a sudden, well, then I went, blah, 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 it's like, why couldn't they say that before, right? But then there's also this question, which is, what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? I mean, really, what would you do? Right. And again, somehow those questions kind of give permission to speak something that before you weren't willing to say.
Yeah. Her name is Kat Sullivan. The book, From Doubt to Do, I could be sitting at her feet all day long and just listen to her without saying a word and just let her talk. She's so good. Doubt to Do, From Doubt to Do, Navigating Your Pathway to Possibility. Absolutely fantastic. You're listening to her here on A New Direction. Folks, Linda Craft Team Realtors, listen, I want you to go check out their site, lindacraft.com. That's LANDACRAFT.com. I think it is perhaps the, and I've looked at a lot of real estate websites, but I think it's perhaps the most comprehensive real estate website that I have ever seen. Literally, they have everything that you would normally think of that a real estate website should have, what are the local listings and things like that. But then they have other things like, they have a child psychologist who wrote How to Move with Kids, or the veterinarian on how to move with pets, little things that you may not be thinking of, the charities that they're involved with, and that they would love you to be involved with too. And they do a lot of charitable work, the moving trucks that they donate to the local charities for free. without anything. Just they let them have them. So, folks, really check them out. The site is comprehensive. It's outstanding. They're about to have Pi Day next week, Tuesday. They're giving out hundreds and hundreds, and I'm being serious. I think it's somewhere between 700 and 800 pies to past clients. And these are big, huge pumpkin and apple pies. And I'm going to actually do something live for them from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Tuesday, right before Thanksgiving. So check them out. Just go to lindacraft.com. It's LINDACRAFT.com. And we're back here on A New Direction with my friend. I can call you friend, can I not?
Absolutely.
Yeah, can we? I think I call you friend. Kat O'Sullivan. I just love saying that name. It's so fun. Say the name. From Doubt to Do, Navigating Your Pathway to Possibility. Fabulous book. Get yourself a copy wherever the books are sold. And if they do not have it at your local bookstore, you demand it. You tell them, get it on the shelf. Okay. And here's another thing I want to tell you too. You know what I ask people to do? Check your library. If your library doesn't have it, go to your local library and say, will you please put this book in the library? This is a great book to have in the library. It's something that we can all do to help authors, but it's also great because people sometimes can't purchase books, but they can get a library card. Go to your local library. Say, put Doubt to Do in there because it's worth reading. All right. And that would help her out too as well. So I really highly suggest that you do that. One of the things as we finish up clarity is you say this. Remember that negative self-talk only has the power we give it. What would be on your wish list? Creating a new life isn't without challenges. Failing to take a risk could be the biggest risk of all. Would you like to put your little stamp on that?
Absolutely, positively. I mean, I've taken a lot of risks in my life, but probably the biggest one was in the wake of COVID, making the decision to move from Los Angeles to Mexico in the middle of the pandemic. And, everyone thought we were crazy. It was risky. It was scary. 3 years later is the best thing that we could have ever done. We have no regrets. We love our life here. It's allowing us to do things we never could have done had we not taken that risk. So, it's about taking that first step and, creating that, back to clarity, creating a list. I mean, I created a detailed list of everything I would want to do, what it would look like. And, Lake Chapala, where we ended up, came on my radar screen and, we haven't looked back. So, getting that clarity is really important, and then committing to making it happen, because that wish list required a lot to make a move in the middle of the pandemic to a foreign country. And so it requires a genuine commitment when you really want something. Otherwise, the first time, something goes awry, it's like, oh, well, that was a nice thought.
Right. Yeah, this is the third C, commitment. To talk about that, because we're not very good at it. I don't think we're very good at commitment. Honestly, I don't think. I think we always try to find a way out, right? Right. How often you say something here, it says lip service. You're saying yes when you really mean no is confusing and undermines the process. But we do that frequently. So talk about how we get there to commitment and what that really means for us in these 4 C's.
It's all about the why, in all caps. It's all about the why, because if we're not clear, crystal clear about what we want and why, it's so important to us in detail, like what would happen if we don't, what's at risk if we don't do it?
Right.
What's at risk if we do it? But maybe I should have said it the other way. What's at risk if we do it? But what's at risk if we don't do it?
Yeah.
Why is this? I mean, we had to think long and hard about why we would pull up roots. I would uproot my successful business and our beautiful home and get up and move to a foreign country where we don't even speak their language. Well, we do now, sort of. But there was a big why. And my husband's 18 years older than I am. And, we were oh so busy. We had no, he had a life, I had my work, never the twain shall meet. Right. And if we were going to enjoy the rest of whatever life he has together, it was going to create it would require a significant disruption of our life to make very different choices and to create an environment where we could do that. Right. So, when things got challenging, because we made that move in 3 months. Wow. And, we sold our home, our cars, we had a boat, we had, we got on the plane with our suitcase and our golden retriever, There were moments when I'm like, what the are we doing?
Right.
But then I had to remind myself, why, what was so important that we would be willing to work through the challenges. Yeah. So it's about why.
Yeah. And that moves us to capacity. And as we kind of close up the show here in the next minute or two, talk about capacity, time for you to prepare yourself to actually do it.
Yeah, first off, we need to stop and look at what our strengths are. What are the things we're really good at? And how can we leverage those to build new capacity to learn the things that we need to learn in order to do that thing that felt impossible? What new capacity do we need to build? And then just step by step, figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I know I do, because, I think, there's this generation that you and I are, that we cross over, because, you're boomer and I'm right on the edge of X, or what I guess it was X is the next generation. Yeah. And I'm right on that cusp there. And we have these 4 words that our generations do share, and that is, I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And I fear that sometimes our future generations are not doing that as much as saying, you know what, we'll figure it out. I don't know what it is, but I'll figure it out.
We have to learn into the unknown.
Yeah.
Learn into the unknown. And let's face it, I mean, there's so many resources that we never had.
Right.
To be able to do that, there's no excuse nowadays. I mean, it's like, whatever you want to learn, I don't care what it is, there's something on YouTube or somewhere that you can learn it.
Yeah, we got to stick in.
Capacity is the least of the worries,
No, we got to stick in a piece of string and we figured something out. Whatever. You know what I mean? You've been great, Kat. Thank you for coming on. Absolutely fabulous book. Again, remind people from doubt to do, navigating your pathway to possibility. Tell folks how they can get a hold of you, please.
The best way to get a hold of me is to go to my website, which is KatO'Sullivan.com, and that's Kat with a K, KatO'Sullivan.com. And there's plenty of ways to get a hold of me through the website, and whether you're interested in the book, in any of the other things that I'm involved with, you can explore what's possible with Kat, awesome. and I would love to, and if someone wants to reach out more personally, you're welcome to email me at kat@katosullivan.com. Kat with a K.
Kat with a K. Love it. Thank you, Kat. Stay with me, will you please? Folks, it's the show, I say to you every week, you know what? We are in control of 3 things: your attitude, your effort, and your resiliency. Things are going to happen in your life that are unexpected and that you may think are bad, but I can tell you They're ultimately for your good. And the fact of the matter is, your attitude is one of those things, regardless of what happens to you, that is within your control. Not always easy, but you can control it. Your effort is tied to your excellence. So every day you choose how excellent you want to be today, right? No one else can tell you how excellent. Only you determine that, because that's your choice. And then finally, resiliency. Folks, we all get knocked down. We get punched in the mouth or punched in the gut, but it's up to us to get back up. And I need you to get back up. You want to know why? Because you're worth it. And we need you on the team. I'll be back next week with another great guest, another great book. It's automatically another great show. It has to be. As I say, it's this. And that is, you had a lot of choices. You chose us. Thank you so much. I am grateful for that. Give us a thumbs up on YouTube, a positive review wherever you watch or listen to the show. That would be fantastic. And as I say to you all over the world, you know what that is. Ciao, everybody.